What is going on, folks? Hello, happy Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central, ready for another UGC Workshop Live, where we sit down and give you the how-to practical takeaways that you need to level up your user-generated content, whether that's better visuals, better strategy, better workflows, or how to make best use of MarketScale Studio. We've got it all, and today's is maybe the most practical of our run so far, so I'm really looking forward to today's episode. Again, folks, it's Daniel Litwin, voice of B2B here. Make sure you're headed to our website, marketscale.com, for previous episodes of UGC Workshop Live. You can find them in our resources tab on demand. You can also start to sign up for all of our future workshops. We've got two big ones coming up. Next week is on AI visibility and GEO, generative engine optimization auditing. Don't want to miss that one. And after that, we've got a great workshop sitting down with pros from the healthcare industry to talk about how to deploy user-generated content without all the red tape in a highly regulated industry. I'm sure a lot of y'all can relate, whether healthcare, fintech, you name it. So, folks, I'm looking forward to today's episode. Let's dive right in. Today on UGC Workshop Live, we are giving y'all the nitty-gritty how-tos on giving better editing direction on your event recaps. Now, some of today's insights in general are going to be applicable beyond just event recaps, right? The methodologies of thinking through your edits, of pre-production, of intentional direction. These are tried and true and are useful whether you're submitting, an edit request for a podcast or a soundbite or an event recap, right? But we really wanted to drill down on trade show content because, well, Q1 2026 is hot for trade shows in almost every industry that we serve. A lot of our clients that we're kicking off and onboarding are either at a show, going to a show tomorrow, just wrapped up a show, and they're looking to cook up some good content. So highly practical. So by the end of today, you're going to take a real trade show upload in Studio. We have some real content to work with, and you will elevate your strategy for submitting an editor-ready edit request that produces a purposeful piece of trade show content in one clean pass, rather than getting a generic montage or getting stuck in endless revision mode, which is never fun. So let's go ahead and dive in, right? So let's set the stage here a little bit before we introduce our guests, right? If you ever open a studio edit request and you realize you don't actually know how to communicate your vision for that video, you're not alone, okay? Communicating as a video producer is its own muscle and its own skill. And trade show content is some of the most exciting, has the most opportunities for high impact, for engaging customer storytelling, product showcases. But often you're dealing with either too little, one picture of a photo booth, or one photo of your booth and then like one selfie, right? Or you're dealing with way too much, and it's hard to make sense of how do I put together a thoughtful video that's actually useful for me. We're going to be working mostly with the latter today. Last week's workshop was to help you guys capture a little more content. Today, we're going to assume you already did some good B-roll, some good selfies at your trade show. So again, trade show footage, there's a lot to sift through. You've got B-roll, booth demos, selfie clips, interviews, customer storytelling, conversations with prospects, right? A lot of moving pieces. So if you don't give your edit requests purpose and you don't give them structure, then your editor has to guess what you're looking for out of your edit. And guessing is how you end up on version 10 of a video and no one's happy, right? And you've already missed the window where that video would be impactful. So today, we are going to show you Studio, right? MarketScale Studio and some of the workflows in our edit request ecosystem. But we're not necessarily going to be mapping every little move you make to one specific set of UI, because guess what? Our UI improves and evolves. So we're going to be focusing on the how-to of the methodology and best practices that you can apply to your edit requests, regardless of how that edit request actually looks when you go to submit an edit request, right? So looking forward to diving in with everyone. I want to go ahead and introduce our two guests. We have two members of MarketScale's editing community here with us today that are going to be able to talk from the trenches about what the editing side of, this media ecosystem needs to deliver quality content for you, right? And they're going to give you tips, tricks, and how-tos to level up your edit requests. So I want to go ahead and introduce our two guests. First up, we've got Senior Director of Media Operations here, good friend of mine, Mr. Victor Nguyen. Let's kick him up on stage. There he is.
How's it going, folks?
What's up, Victor? Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
Man, you're running a ship, man. You're a busy guy, but I appreciate you taking the time to walk our customers through these best practices.
Always a pleasure to join you here, Daniel.
Oh, yeah. I'd also like to introduce a MarketScale editor and a member of our elite MarketScale editing embassy, the one and only Blake Tamble. What's up, Blake?
Hello. How's it going?
Going great. Thank you for being here. So for our audience, these two, Victor here runs the entire editing ecosystem for MarketScale. So you're going to want to listen to what he has to say. Blake here is one of the most creative editors we have in our team who can not only deliver a variety of different content, but is often interfacing with clients as well and can translate some of y'all's needs to actual useful content. So you're going to be wanting to take notes here. They're living and breathing this from the trenches, and we're going to level up y'all's edit requests. So I want to start with just having you guys set the tone immediately with some practical how-to takeaways here for our audience. First one being, right, you guys see a lot of edit requests, the good, the bad, the excellent, and the ugly, and everything in between, right? So if I'm staring at a studio edit request and I'm stuck, let's say I'm a customer or a client, what would y'all say are some of the first decisions that a customer should make and think through before they ever start typing out their edit request? Where should they even get started headspace-wise so that this is a productive back and forth and they get what they're looking for? What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think honestly, the first step is to understand like what is the point of what you're trying to do. Like too often we get caught up in this trap where we're like, oh, we have to make content. And that's it. That's like the bottom line. We just have to make content for the sake of content. And we don't have a broader goal in mind, right? So before you get started anywhere, you want to ask yourself, what am I trying to do with this content? Am I trying to promote something? Am I trying to teach someone something? What is it that I'm trying to teach? That's the first thing I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Blake, what do you think?
Yep, I totally agree. I feel like we also get caught up in trying to include every single thing into one video instead of making maybe 5 different deliverables from one trade show. So I think just focusing on one thing at a time makes the content more rich. And then also a second thing I will add is thinking of an example video, either something that we've done at MarketScale already or something that you've seen on YouTube. That's probably like the easiest way to get a video to the point where you want it to be. And the end is attaching an example so the editor knows, okay, I want it to look, like this. I want it to be super hype, or I want it to include a lot of interviews. I want the music to be like this. So that's like one of the surefire ways to get it to be like, okay, I want the video just like this, but with my content.
I love it. And a lot of those methodologies you guys are describing, we're going to dig into in more detail and really expand on the consequences of, missing the mark. But also, of course, audience, you're going to walk away with some tips and tricks you can apply immediately for those trade show videos I know that you guys are cooking up. So I'd like to activate the chat here a little bit. Keyboard warriors, activate. I have a question for y'all. In one sentence here, or just a phrase, I'd love to hear from our audience today. What is that edit you're trying to get out of your most recent or next set of event content or trade show content, right? Are you guys looking for some sales content, product demos? Are you trying to get a recap for LinkedIn? Maybe a customer spotlight, thought leadership from your executives? What are one of the big content priorities y'all have from your previous or your upcoming trade shows? Let's see them in chat, and we'll reference these as we continue here with the workshop. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and kick up the presentation here. So, folks, I actually cooked up some visuals this time around. We won't be, tied to these, but hopefully this helps y'all take a few more notes, too, of the do's and don'ts, okay? So, first big thing here is we need to remember when you guys are filling out an edit request in MarketScale Studio, your edit request is a creative brief to a real person. There is a creative on the other side of that edit request, an editor who's ready to take your direction and turn it into your vision, right? So that means that this is a communication challenge, right? And a communication mission that we need to continue to refine. So it's not just you submitting a ticket, right? You're briefing a human editor who wasn't at your event. So context matters here a lot, right? Now, when we look at trade show recaps, beyond capturing more media, right? Why do some recaps we see out there look generic? Well, a big part of it is the direction is just a little too vague, right? We see some of these quite a bit. Hey, use the best clips. We want this to be fun. Hey, make us a cool montage. Hey, make this pop. Give this energy. With a little more context, that is useful to describe, the tone and the feel of your edit. But consider if that's all an editor has to work off of, how do they know exactly what products you want to showcase? Which people need to be showcased? Which narratives are most important? And again, which goal that you have to set before you send in this edit request are they actually helping drive towards? This is really important. Victor or Blake, tell us a little bit about how this actually ends up impacting the edit experience, right? And your initial take on how do you avoid this, right? If you are a customer and you're submitting an edit request, how do you level this up?
Yeah, I'll take this one first. So if the thing with something that's just purely vibes based is that your vibes can be very different from whoever it is that's picking it up, right? Like someone might pick it up and they're like, oh, this client said I wanted a lot of energy. I want some pizzazz, right? Well, what happens if they pick a music track that's like, what happens if they pick like a techno music track? And because it's a tech-based trade show and you're like, yeah, it's a tech-based trade show, but I mean, I don't know, techno doesn't really seem like the right thing. What if we just went with some hard rock, right? Because that's your personal taste, or that's the taste of some of the salespeople who were on the floor that day, right? So then, we have to retime all the edits and all the imagery to a completely different beat or something. That's a lot of work and a lot of time that, we kind of just threw out the window. So that's kind of one of those innocent creative mistakes that could happen whenever we're just purely going off of vibes. And even if, you say, hey, let's pick a techno song or let's pick a hard rock song or something like that, they could pick something that's slightly off from what you're looking for. And so then, we're faced with the same problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like, if you just say like, oh, pick the best shots. And like, there have been times where at trade shows, people have new products that they're showing off that they don't necessarily want to show next month, but maybe in 3 months, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these product shots are so cool. And so I include all those. And then, the revision comes back and it's like, oh, actually, we can't show this, 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 and this yet. It hasn't launched. Like, we can't include those. And so again, like knowing that up front, like, hey, we want to include, product A, B, and C, but don't include product D, please, and attaching pictures of what those products are, because again, I probably don't know exactly what the product is unless I Google, I do a lot of Googling and going on the client's website and stuff to try my best to figure it out.
But sometimes that stuff isn't there.
Right. Exactly. So just being really specific about what you want shown, I think is really helpful too. And then we can, as the editor, pick the best shots of that, so if you want like lots of shots of the booth, people talking, these specific products, then we can do our, best job to pick out the best shots of what we have of those things.
And to tack on to what you're saying, Blake, we're not here to try to intimidate you guys to be like, if you don't know exactly what you want, you're not getting a project. That's not what we're trying to do. What we want to kind of lay out is, there's like a proportionality to things, right? So if you think that the end result needs some kind of specificity, right? Some kind of, hey, I need to make sure that these products are not revealed yet, even though this was at the trade show. Like, we don't want to reveal it to our customers because We kind of want to build a little bit of FOMO. We want them to know that, hey, they weren't at the trade show, so they don't get to see this right away in our first video. If that specific thing is needed, we do need to know that. So if you want some kind of specific outcome, which I think Daniel's shown up here on the proportionality rule, you should be specific up front. But if you're fine with not being specific because you're like, I truly just need like a purely vibes-based hype video, we don't need to work on story that much. The first thing I would say is, maybe we do need a story. But the second thing is, all right, if you're sure you don't need anything and you just need to make like an internal video to summarize this for nostalgia reasons or something like that, okay, we got you. But anytime we start approaching something that has some kind of specific need, we need to know that up front, and that will help. That will make everyone's experience a lot better.
Exactly. So folks, it starts with deciding what level of comfort do you have with this edit and what are you really looking to get out of it, right? So first big piece of advice here, right? If you want a specific outcome for your event recap, for your trade show content, make sure that your direction matches that specificity, right? If you want something flexible, if you're okay with trusting the creative judgment of your editor, make that decision up front, and then you can be a little looser with your direction. But it's always important, regardless of if you have a very specific vision or if you have a more general vision, it's always useful to call out maybe things you don't want to see. That is my biggest how-to tip here as we get started with approaching the edit request. It can feel like a daunting task to sit down and pick every single little clip you do want to see, right? Storyboarding the whole piece of content. Well, what if you do want some of that creative direction from the editor? Well, instead, as you're diving into MarketScale Studio and leaving notes in the proofing room, it can help to call out things you want to make sure that they don't use, right? Have fun with this, use your creative direction, but like Blake said, right, don't include products D, E, and F because they're not live yet. That alone will save you a few rounds of revisions and will give clearer guardrails for the editing team to knock out your vision, right? Now, beyond that, I think it's important to think through the actual purpose of the video in terms of its business impact. And this is my next how-to tip for you guys. As you go to fill out your edit request for an event recap video, you need to decide what business outcome is this going to help drive. Give the video a job. Okay, so here are some visuals to give you guys a little more clarity. There are plenty of jobs that a video can serve from a trade show. And the challenge is that a lot of event recaps don't have this clarity. And so they're just meant to sort of cover the bases of we were here, check out what happened at the show. But what kind of impact does that have a week after the show's over? Does anyone really care that you were at the trade show, right? So what's the business goal that this video is meant to drive home? Is it sales? Does this event recap mean to help you guys show proof around a product or a use case and give calls to action to get in touch with your sales team, right? Is it a product recap? Very explicitly, maybe this whole event piece of content is for demos, is for close-ups, is to show that new product line, show how it works. Do the fun, sham wow style demo that gets people hyped up. Maybe the trade show's not really about product for you. It's about people. So it's about the customer, which means you're going to want to highlight all the moments where you're shaking hands with the customer, where you're posing with that great channel partner. Maybe if you take the time to pre-produce, right, you've planned out some interviews that you're going to do with your customers. And so you lead with those. You lead with storytelling. Okay. Authority. Here's another really good one. SME insights and context around trends in the industry. There is no better place to capture solid subject matter expertise and hot take thought leadership on major topics at the trade show, on your take on the keynote, on here's what I heard 10 times at the trade show, right? There's no better place to do it than boots on the ground at the show. And your recap may want to lead with that authority. And then the last option here is just hype, right? Sometimes the hype is the good part. Maybe that's part of your brand. Maybe you want to lead from the front with a really fast dynamic edit that just blows people away. Maybe your booth is just so sexy this year. You've got all the great LED installs. Your products look real clean. And so you just want to blast that out to the, to the world and say, hey, join us at the next show and you can check out this cool booth, right? So again, don't just ask for a recap when you go to submit a recap. What is your event recap meant to serve? This is a really great place to start. Victor and Blake, what's a simple rule of thumb for, because this is most effective when you plan it out beforehand, right? But sometimes you just kind of capture what you got, and then you got to sit down and say, okay, what do I have? What material do I have to work with? And what job can it get done, right? Any tips or tricks for how you recommend that our audience here looks through their content to decipher what business outcome would this content best serve?
Yeah, I think this kind of goes back to a little bit about what Blake was saying earlier with let's focus on getting like a manageable deliverable first. So, first we find, hey, what is our purpose, right? Is our purpose, like you were saying, is it to push a sale of a certain item? Is it to push getting more attendance next year? Is it to push nostalgia for what we've already done already, right? Having that first and then focusing on, okay, I think I want this. And now what deliverable do I want? At that stage, you're going to see 45 images and 65 little clips or something like that. And it might be a case where you're like, I don't know how to sort through this. I don't know what to do here. You can send all of that to us. And yes, that's a lot of content. But if you just let us know, this is what my goal is, what can I get from there? And don't show me, I don't want to see, X, Y, and Z, because maybe this is a little too rowdy. Maybe this product isn't ready yet. Just that baseline is enough for us to go off of. And yes, we might not be able to hit it in revision 1, but because you had that clear goal in mind, we can get it before revision 10. Where we would struggle is if it's like, all right, here's 100 clips and videos. We want a video. And it's like, what kind of video? That's where it would be a little bit tough.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say too. Like, if you give us everything that you have and you have a clear direction and goal, then that's where we get to do what we love to do and sift through everything and get into the nitty gritty stuff and say, okay, like, they really want to showcase product A. And so I'm going to make sure, I'm going to go through every single clip that they have. I'm going to see if people talk about it. I'm going to get all the good B-roll shots and put a nice little montage together for this specific product. So I think even just that little bit of hey, like, I filmed all this content, there's a bunch of UGC stuff. I filmed this, like some other people that were there filmed some stuff, and we really want to showcase this. So here you go. Like, we can totally work with that.
Right. Like, if we have your goal, if we know what your goal is, and we have like a general idea, or you give us the idea of like, hey, we need this social cut for LinkedIn. We need this internal video. So, feel free to get licensed music for that internal video or something like that.
Right.
If we know that going in, then we can figure out the structure for you. That's our job, right? Like, you don't need to get us a storyboard where it's like, this is act 1, this is act 2, this is act 3, this is act 4, this is act 5. Like, honestly, we're going to look at it and we're going to be like, all right, much appreciated. That's going to make our lives a little bit easier, but you did spend 2 hours just going through ChatGPT or pulling out like an old screenwriting book or something to give us all this detail for something that, was like a 60-minute video that we've done thousands of times. And it's kind of like, you just need to give us like a couple of sentences of what you're looking for. We've done this a lot. We can figure it out for you.
Yeah.
I was talking to go ahead.
If a customer pulls out a script writing book to submit an edit request, I just got to give them props for that, okay, for the dedication. So I please let me know if you do that. That's next level.
We see it, and it's the dedication is appreciated. It's just sometimes it might not be necessary, right? This kind of goes back to the rule of specificity that you were saying before. Storyboarding something out like that, very useful if there's a lot of specificity, like a lot of like, we need this product here, we need this product here, we need this product here, right, because we're building like a product library reveal or something like that at our trade show. And so, that makes sense to have that specificity and for you to invest that time up front in. But if it's a bit more casual and it's like, we just need to show these 3 products, there's not really, there's not an order necessarily, there's not necessarily like a rhyme or reason that it has to specifically abide to. You can just let us know that and we would be good to go.
So what I want to touch base on now with y'all is starting to dig into the platform itself a little bit and organizing an edit. This is where methodology, really goes pen to paper for our audience here. So folks, as we start to actually put our hands into MarketScale Studio and show an edit request and how to maneuver it, it's important to remember that the content that you capture and upload at a trade show does not just have to serve one video. And this is an important part of organizing yourself in the platform and making the most of all this time you spent capturing interviews and B-roll and customer spotlights, you name it, right? All of that material, if you have the video jobs mapped out, the same material can be, alchemically refined into a new deliverable, right? And so how you launch the edit in the platform can help you with this too. So just kind of knowing that if you organize your stuff to start within a folder in the platform that's trade show related or related to that show, from there you can start to dig and sift through those pieces and tag stuff for your own sake into, let's say the hype montage cut, or, oh, this is perfect for sales, or, oh, here are all the customer moments. I'm going to tag this into customer spotlight, right? So let me show you what that looks like in practice. So here is MarketScale Studio, right? And we're here in channel media, and I've got a trade show upload here that I'm going to work with. So as you can see, I've already tagged this into a few folders, into a generic trade shows folder, into PGA Show 2026, and then into Q1 2026 trade shows. This is just a general best practice. I recommend that you guys take advantage of the flexible tags here. Folders act like metadata hashtags. So you can tag a video project into multiple folders. This means in the future, when you gotta, for example, do an end of year recap, a recap of recaps. Well, do you want to have to sift through and find every video in the channel? If not, then if you have everything categorized neatly into a bucketed trade shows folder or a 2026 trade shows folder, it'll be really easy for you to go in there, select all the clips and say, hey, reuse these, but now for a end of year highlight, right? So let's dive into one of these folders. I've got here the PGA 2026 show folder, right? So this is all the content, right, hypothetically here from this one show. So I can now thumb through all these different clips and just start to review the pictures that I got, the videos that I got from my creators. So let's say, oh, here is a great picture of the team. This is fantastic. I want to make sure that this is included in our team highlight video. We have a lot of new employees. We want to have a video that's sort of culturally, like an energy boost that we're going to share internally. So I'm going to make sure to add this clip to the culture video, PGA Show 2026. Okay, so now this video is tagged into that extra folder. Easy. Okay, now I'm going to keep going. Oh, here, a staff dinner video. Perfect. That's also got to be there too, right? So tag it into the culture video PGA Show 2026 folder. So this is just good best practices as you are digging through your content. Take the time, if you want to get a lot of videos out of the same bucket of videos, take the time to tag stuff into different folders. It'll help you at the point of edit launching to already have the material organized and easy for you to quickly send an edit request, instead of within the media studio sifting through 100 clips and kind of reorienting yourself on what to use and what not to use, right? Any other best practices, Victor or Blake, that you guys recommend for our audience to deploy as they get themselves organized in the platform?
Blake, you got any? You're the person who has to hunt all this stuff down.
Yeah, you're managing the organized or disorganized stuff.
I am. I was just gonna say, when you get to the edit request, commenting on specific videos. So I'll note that when you make an edit.
Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and jump into that then, right? So here is a media studio, folks, right? So again, when you are on a video project and you need to request an edit, make sure that you're leaving this feedback in the media studio. Every video has its own media studio button here, right? Sometimes we'll see customers leave a comment here in the social feed. This does not actually reach editors. So, small tip, if you want to actually send edit notes to our editing team, make sure you're doing it in the media studio. Small quality of life improvement there. Actually, big quality of life improvement. Okay, here we have the media studio for this project, right? So I can thumb through and review these different clips, right? And this is a big upload, so we've got hundreds of clips to sift through here. Now, it doesn't always have to be like this. Remember, at the point of upload, you can always be a little bit more intentional about your upload batches. Because if you tag all your uploads into different folders, or excuse me, into the same folder, or just thoughtful folders, you'll still see all these different uploads in one place, right? But if, it might be easier for you to upload 20 clips at a time and then organize by 20 clips, right? Instead of sifting through 100 plus pieces. So another quality of life improvement there. But as you see here, we've got all our clips from our upload, and now we can start to actually click through the different videos, watch them back as needed, right? And leave notes in the proofing room for these videos. And excuse if it's a little laggy, screen sharing, going live from the laptop here, and proofing room, computer's struggling sometimes. But let's just say we're leaving a note on this photo, right? Okay, I really want to make sure this photo pops because one of those employees is new, and we really want to make sure that they get their time in the sun. So I might drop a note here to, make sure to emphasize this photo in the recap. New employees here that we want to spotlight. Okay, maybe I'll give this an exclamation point here. Very important. I really want to make sure the editors see this one. I'm going to hit submit. And now this is going to log on this clip, and it's going to add to the timeline on the right-hand side for the editors and for you to reference with intentionality. There we go, right? This is now linked to this video. If I click off this video, you'll see it kind of grays out, indicating this note is on a different clip, right? So let's talk best practices here, folks, before we start digging into the actual edit request form. Blake, what kind of advice do you have for our audience on how to better leave proofing room comments? Because there's two places to leave comments here. You can leave direction in the edit request, which is the main direction for your video. But then you've also got the proofing room where you can leave notes on each clip. What is or isn't kind of a best practice, in your opinion, for using this environment to support an event recap video?
So exactly what you did here with commenting on, please make sure to use this clip. I think those things are really important, especially when you have over 100 clips. It's really important to say hey, I definitely want this one in there. Or, hey, I definitely don't want to show this. Like we were talking about not showing a specific product. So here you could comment and say, hey, this is the product that I'm not wanting to show. If you can see this in the background of any of the shots, please don't use it. So that's a really good way to show the editor specifically, hey, this is what I do want to be shown. This is what I don't want to be shown. And you don't have to comment on every single video clip at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying if there's a few specific things that you 100% know that you want or you don't want, then please note that on that specific clip, and then that will help us, guide us in the right direction.
And to add on to that, folks, when we get something of that size and, the edit request says, I'd like a 60-second video and I want to focus on X, Y, and Z. Our default is actually not that we are going to use every single photo and video that you send us. So, you don't have to assume like, oh, they're going to use all of those photos and videos. Conversely, you should definitely know that we're not going to use all of that footage. We have had instances in the past, and even in the recent past, where when a client might upload like 70 photos, and they come up with the assumption that we will use all 70 photos. One, I would strongly caution you against that, right? Like you're putting in a lot of visual clutter and information and condensing it into a piece of content that even sending it to the audience that you intend to send it to, they're most likely not going to watch it all the way through, right? So that's one of those cases where you should trust our editors a bit to utilize the best footage rather than to be comprehensive to a fault.
Yeah. That's, something I've learned myself. So this is coming from a user perspective here, because I edit my own stuff too in MarketScale Studio. I request edits, right? I have found that it's very important to, again, remember the human dynamic here. You are launching into a creative conversation with a real creative who does have their own creative language, who has the ability to take your view, your vision for your video and give it that extra touch of magic. So sometimes overdoing the pre-production, like overdoing the specificity of every single clip you want to see in an event recap, for example, while it's not like totally misguided, it's not bad, it's just, is it totally worth the time? Because you may actually find you get a more engaging video if you take the time to just highlight what you really do or don't want to see, get the extremes, and then leave that middle room open for the editor to put their creative stamp on it for the sake of getting something more fun and engaging. If you kind of overproduce, you may find that the edit's actually maybe a bit stiff because the editor had less room to play with. And even if it totally matches your vision, you may say, oh, actually, I don't know that I liked my vision all that much, So it's good to trust the editing relationship here that you're developing with your creative briefs. Blake, would you agree with what I said there as the editor?
Yes, definitely. And I feel like that's where we get to have the most fun as editors. It's like, okay, they want this, they don't want this, and now I know what to do. It's like I'm baking a cake and I get to put all the fun frosting and sprinkles and all that stuff on top, and I get to do the fun part, because everybody wants to make a great video. The client wants a good video, the editor wants to produce a good video, the UGC coach wants it to be a great video, so we're all working together to make this really, really great. And so the more we can communicate up front and be specific about, hey, don't show this, please do show this. And here's an example that I like, and I like this kind of music. Then the editor, we get all that info and we're like, yes, okay, perfect. I know exactly what I'm going to do. And so then we get to, just have fun and do what we love to do.
Exactly. So let's give some more guidance here on structure for your videos, right? Now, this is very flexible and it's very dependent on the job we described earlier, right? So what job is your video serving? The structure of that video is going to be dependent on that job. So if it's product focused, obviously the structure is going to be a little bit more, painting the context of your video, painting the context around your product, how it works, maybe even including a demo in there and then a call to action. If you're doing authority, and this is all about trends in the industry, you're probably going to start with setting the context of what trend are we talking about, right? Hey, 10 times today, I heard AI isn't as big a deal in our industry as everyone makes it out to be. Okay, then you want the hot take. Then you want maybe validation, include a second voice to supplement, or a contrarian voice to add a little flavor and fire to your video. So again, there isn't one tried and true structure to all event recap content. It's kind of against the main message we want you to take away from here today. But if I did have to generalize at a very high level, you can take some inspo from something like this, right? So let's say you needed to crush one event recap in 60 seconds and kind of do a little bit of everything. This is meant to be the general recap video. Well, regardless, you're going to want to open with a hook on all your videos. Hooks are important. I'm sure Victor and Blake are going to go, yes, Daniel, I agree. I hope you agree. But get rid of those intro stingers, right? No more intro stingers. No one wants to sit and watch your logo get animated for 10 seconds and then get to the meat of your video.
They won't.
I know. They will
it's easy
scroll
for
past.
us. We can put it in for you, but
Right.
you're kind of tanking your own video.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is just like a practical piece of advice for you guys. I know brand wants the stinger. The brand team, the marketing team, they want to make sure stuff is branded properly. There's other ways to include that branding. Remember, you could have the logo sting at the end of your video. You can have your logo pop up in the corner as your video starts. You can make sure that it's part of the lower third, maybe a little badge with your logo as the person's name pops up. The branding will be evident, but if you try to lead with 5 seconds of a logo, folks will likely scroll past. Think of your own content consumption habits. Do you wait, when you're scrolling through TikTok for that to then get to the meat of the video? Usually not. So, small piece of advice there, open with a hook. Think of an Office episode, right? They open with a cold open. It's fun. It gets you laughing immediately. It sets the story and it's engaging. Then there's an intro. Then there's the meat of the episode. Same deal here, right? Open with that juiciest soundbite, the most contrarian take, the coolest shot of your product, right? The happiest moment from your team. And then start to paint the picture. And then you can actually show that moment again in context of when it really happened or kind of like couched by other stuff, right? So hit it with the hook, open up the context, explain what is this video even about, right? This is where the job makes itself a little more clear. Then you get to the proof moment. Now, in parentheses, it says demos there, but we're not just talking about demos. The proof here could be describing that customer interaction you had that validated that trend. The proof here could be a product breakdown. The proof here could be a customer testimonial where you're talking more about here was their issue, here was how we solved it, and here was the impact, right? The social proof bit there at the end is let's add some more heart and more energy to the video, right? Social proof is important for most any video. Really, what this means to me is include more voices, include more people in your content that validate your point. If it's a product demo, have that second sales guy come in and add his voice to reinforce one of the tips that the main guy is offering. If it's a customer interview, have one of the sales guys or a VP of marketing or a customer rep reinforce or validate the impact that they just explained. If it's an SME piece of content where you're dropping hot takes on trends in the industry, right? Ask a passerby, hey, do you agree? And include their, contrarian take or their hot take or whatever. Social proof is good here. Show community actively. And then call to action, always important. Could be a logo sting, subscribe here. But better is if it comes from a person, right? Call to action on where to find more information, who to hit up, give me a call. Do you want to be featured in the next video? DM me on LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. So structure beats randomness always, right? But structure can be intentional. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. I wanted to get Blake and Victor, y'all's thoughts here. Any other elements that you would, always make sure to include in a narrative structure for some kind of event piece of content? I know it's hard to generalize, but anything I missed here or anything you want to re-emphasize is particularly important.
I would say this structure is sort of ingrained in our editing ethos, right? So whereas before we were stressing like, hey, if you need specificity, let us know, right? If you need X number of deliverables, or you have a general idea of like a specific deliverable, let us know. With this structure, folks, this is in our DNA, right? So when you give us the information beforehand of what you need to tell the story, we will take that specificity and we will put it into an outline sort of like this. When we stray from this outline, it's usually because you've requested us something that has forced us out of this box. So, if we don't have a hook, that might be because you've told us before, or you've gotten on a call with your UGC coach and you've said, yeah, we really need to make sure that we have that intro at the beginning every time. I'm sorry, I know that things might perform better for this, but right now this is what we need. I think earlier Caitlin asked about what product demos or testimonial videos or something like that. Those videos, if they're recorded as is already, it's just a 30-second video of someone introducing a product or something, that kind of has its own structure already. And then we're not trying to, French New Wave this thing, to reinvent the wheel to get it to fit into like this other structure. So that's one thing I would say is that this structure, this is sort of an ideal structure, but we figure that out from the components that you give us already.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. That's pretty much like the structure that he showed. It's like, if you say, I just want to recap and nothing else, that's what we're going to do.
And hey, it's good to have a, kind of copy paste foundation that can generally work for most recaps. But that's why the job matters. That's why the purpose matters. That recap isn't really going to do anything for anyone, right? You're not just making content for the 30 people you talk to at the show. You're making content that's meant to drive sales for your team, that's meant to engage existing customers, that's meant to provide an evergreen educational asset, right? And that's going to influence the structure as well.
Yeah, and I think George said something really good, is that sometimes while you're recording, you come across a line where you're like, oh, that's my hook. That's like one of those specific moments where you should tell the editor, like, hey, at 1:31 to 2:01 or something, there's a really good line. You should start with a cold open of that. And you should be brave about hooks too. Like, there are people who they'll put bloopers as their hooks, right? They will have someone cursing as their hook or something like that, because getting their COO to curse on camera, that's a way to be, people are like, wait, what happened here? You can bleep it, you could not bleep it, right? Like there's a lot of different things you can do. Like with a hook, with a cold open, you want to push the boundaries a little bit. Because the whole point is to stop the scroll. And I know, LinkedIn is different from Instagram. LinkedIn is different from TikTok, but the psychology is still the same. Like, if you're on LinkedIn, you're going to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling until something is really, really eye-catching, or you hear something that's like, wait, what the heck just happened there? Yeah. And that's going to bring people in.
And also with the logo sting at the beginning too, like if you're posting on social media, you're posting from your account. So people know that it's your video also, right. So that can really be saved for the end of the video.
I love it. Stop the scroll. That's good. I threw it in chat. Hashtag stop the scroll. That's how we're going to continue to promote this episode. Too good. And that's going to become a new tagline of mine. All right. I want to go ahead and look at the edit request again here. So folks, we're going to wrap up by walking you through some best practices in the actual edit request itself. I want to highlight a few things that I saw in chat here. So Leah, who is one of our account directors, and she was actually on our GEO, our Generative Engine Optimization workshop. You should go check that out. She had some really good insights there. If you don't know what to do with the opening of your video and you need a strong hook, but you can't quite remember that moment that stands out as the juiciest takeaway, our platform takes every video with any amount of spoken word, and it's going to create an automatic transcript right over here, this little transcript button. right? Again, if there's spoken word of any kind, there will be an auto transcript. Then you've got this AI chat function over here in the proofing room. This is going to pull from all of those transcripts, including if you've got multiple clips. And you could ask our AI chat a question. For example, what are some of the juiciest sound bites from across all the various videos? Reference them here, please. Now you've got a little assistance to help you choose good clips, right? So be thinking about these workflows that are baked right into the platform and can help you be more intentional, right? And not overdo pre-pro where you're digging through every clip and listening to every sound bite to try to find the best ones. Take advantage of the tools here in the platform. Now, let's dive into Request Edit Now. So if you want to get an edit actually launched in the platform, you have to hit Request Edit Now. That's a non-negotiable, okay? Now, I will say you can also request edits out of folders, right? This is important because, like I was saying earlier, if you organize your trade show content neatly into different folder buckets, including for the jobs that you want to get done with your videos, right? So this is for the sales video, this is for the authority video, this is for the customer testimonials video. Then you can actually go into that folder, select the relevant files, and then request an edit from within the folder. Same edit request form that you're going to find within the Media Studio. So this is just another way to initiate, right, out of a folder view, but the methodology is the same. We still got to fill out that request edit form. So let's go back to the proofing room here. We're going to hit Request Edit Now. And we've got our edit request form with some standards, right? You got your branding, straightforward. You choose what branding you want associated with this. This may actually be a good place to make sure you've got branding maybe per product line or division. If you really want to make sure that there's a extra layer of branding that supports one of those jobs you're looking to get done with that video. But more importantly is when we start digging through here that we get intentional about what kind of video is this, right? Event coverage, that's great. That's kind of the general bucket. But like we said, you're mapping this trade show content to a business goal. So maybe that business goal is thought leadership. So it's actually a thought leadership video. Or maybe the business goal is an explainer. Hey, people always ask us questions about this feature in the tool. How does it actually work? Well, we're here to answer in 30 seconds. Go. And you've got the hype of the trade show around that juicy piece of information. That's very practical. So that might be an explainer. All that being said, don't just automatically assume this is event content, therefore I need to do event coverage. Think about your job. What job is this video serving before you click the type of video? This is pretty straightforward. Vertical, horizontal. I got to learn my orientation apparently. Vertical, horizontal, right? There's not a best practice here, folks, but my how-to tip is try to experiment with more vertical video because increasingly people are even tapping into LinkedIn more from their mobile phones than on their desktop. LinkedIn's the notorious desktop social media that you look at while you're at work. But if you've ever opened the LinkedIn app on your phone, you will see there's a little video button at the bottom, and it's giving you a curated set of TikToks, essentially, LinkedIn TikToks. So portrait content does serve a purpose in LinkedIn for your socials. Now, anything that you're wanting to put on your website or a blog, right, a more traditional form of presenting that content, you're probably going to want to opt for landscape. Now, here's where it really gets interesting here, right? Craft your clip. This is important. This is where you start to actually describe what is the vision for your clip, right? Where you kind of highlight, I want to open with a hook. I want to lean into a context moment, right? I want to show proof around this demo or around this trend. Okay, then I want a social proof moment. I want to bring people in, right? And then I want to end with a CTA. Same deal as we talked about here, right? But this is just a starting point. There's so many ways that you can fill this out. Blake or Victor, what advice, what how-to tips would you give to our audience here for filling this craft your clip section out thoughtfully and in a way that's actually useful, that translates their vision well for the editing team? Anything we haven't touched on yet?
I would just say this is a great spot also to put an example.
Yeah.
And if you Like if we have made a trade show recap for you before, say like in 2025, and you say, make this exactly like the trade show video that you guys made for us in 2025, and then that's it, please link that video as well, because we have so many editors here, which is really great. And so it's likely that the person who edited your last trade show video is not going to be the same editor that edits this trade show video. So the more context that you can put in the edit request, the more helpful it is as the editor, so that we know what you're talking about, essentially. So I would always put examples in there. And then also, if you want it to be like a really fast-paced, like hype video, or if you want it to be kind of like, slow, or, well, I guess you wouldn't really want a recap to be slow, but you know what I mean? If you put
drawn out, thoughtful.
Yeah, the feel that you want in there. Like if you want like a thought leadership versus like a super fast, punchy video, all of that information is going to be really helpful to put in this section.
Could you scroll up a little bit, Daniel?
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you get into the groove of things, like that intro should be really fast for you to fill, right? So there's like that craft your clip section. So there's intro, middle, end, right? The intro and ends should usually be really fast once you've gone through this before, because you're going to know, oh, I want my hook, and you're going to write in like the timestamp for the hook, or you're going to be like, editor, feel free to pick a hook. I trust you guys. Close with a logo sting, or just close flat, or those are things you're going to want to know. That middle section, that's kind of where you'd come up with your purpose for us, right? Like, hey, showcase the product demo. We need to make sure that, product X is featured. Don't mention product Y, etc. Tacking on to what Blake said about the example, this is where, the more creative you want to be, the more we'll need an example, unless you're and even if you're very good at communicating exactly what it is that you need, right? A lot of folks coming into this field, you guys aren't necessarily experts, self-admittedly, and we know that, and we want to empathize with you on that. It's a lot like, and I was telling this to a client yesterday, it's a lot like getting a haircut when you don't know anything about hair, right? Like, you know what looks bad on you, and you know what looks good on you, but you don't really know exactly how to navigate getting there. And that's kind of like what editing is like, right? So just like you would show up to a new stylist with a picture, you would show up to a new editor, or you would like if you're doing something new, you want to have that picture ready so that they are not putting like a really weird haircut on your head that, then you have to reconcile with. Our version of waiting 4 months for 3 weeks for your hair to grow out or something is, going through 10 versions of a revision with you. Nobody wants to do that. Your hairdresser doesn't want to do that to you. We don't want to do that to you. So if you get an example, even if that example isn't exactly what you want, right, it acts as a baseline for you where you can be like, here's an example. Do this, this, and this from the example, but don't do these things from the example, right? And then an editor can look at that and be like, cool, I know what I'm working with. Or they can say, that's really fun, but you are in X industry, and I do a lot of stuff in X industry, and I'm going to tell you that this creative decision in your industry is not necessarily a great idea. What if we try to do this, this, and this instead? That's just like what a hairstylist would say, where it's like, that looks good on this person, but it doesn't look good with you. This is why. But if you don't have that example for us, then it's kind of hard for us to build off of that baseline.
Exactly. And here's what I would say as a starting point. You always want to make sure that you provide these elements in your edit request. It would be this little editor ready brief. So you want to take a little screenshot of this. This will also be in the supplemental article that we post from this webinar. You want to start with your purpose first. Again, what job is this video going to serve? We've got our menu of options. Pick the closest one and then make sure that purpose is clear across the rest of your direction. Make sure you've got a goal. What is the goal of your video? And you should be able to describe this in one sentence. If the goal of your video is, I want to highlight that we were at the show, well, first let's take a step back and maybe rethink that goal, because it's not always the best use of great trade show content where you've got community engagement, thought leadership, great visuals. So what's the business related goal, right? Map that out to one sentence, and that's going to motivate the rest of your direction. Okay, structure, right? This is where we got into, think of your hook, think of your context, think of your proof, think of some social proof, and a call to action. That's a great way to approach a starting base for most of these different types of event recap pieces of media. Hero selects. This is really important to me personally. Maybe the editors disagree, but I think it's always a good practice to highlight at least a few key moments that you definitely do want to see. There's got to be something in that footage that oh, that was the best moment, or that was so funny, or that was so visually engaging, right? Make sure that you have those must-haves mapped out, especially if you got 200 clips in there, because the editors may not read the same vibe that you think that you're communicating, intrinsically. Be specific. Go in, drop that note, make the exclamation mark comment in the proofing room like I did here, right? Where you've got very clear vision here for the editor, like make sure you use this or make sure you don't use this, right? If you only use those 5 clips, would it have the impact you're looking for? That should be the kind of impact that these videos have, right? If you take that 3-minute video and you condense down to 60 seconds and you can only use stuff from these few clips, would it have a similar effect? That's how you know you've picked the right clips that move the needle on your vision. Reference, like Blake and Victor said, make sure you include an example. This is great for you. It lessens the load a little bit of having to get so granular with every creative decision, and it helps the editors too. It will give them something to work off of and be creatively inspired by. And last but not least, let's not forget, make sure that you've got the basics in the platform already, or this is going to get delayed, right? And I know Victor can speak to this, and I'll let you guys close this out, but ask yourselves, do you have the logos? Do you have the titles? Do you have everything that you need graphics or assets wise before you hit yes on that edit request? Because if you don't, that edit is going to be blocked. It's going to be moved to needs info, and it's going to sit there until it gets what you need, or until you say, actually, I didn't need that. Feel free to move ahead without the assets. But regardless, it's a roadblock, right? So make sure you've got your foundation set so that what you're asking for can actually be delivered. And folks, I think with that, we've got our main structure, guidance, and approaches mapped out so that you can make the most of your content from the event, right? So again, folks, I want to end now with just letting Blake and Victor kind of give a final summary of good versus bad here a little bit, right? So I'll give my take here. A bad edit request to me, this is going to look like, hey, make an exciting recap for us. Use some of the best clips and give it fun music, but keep it short. Wow, that could go in a lot of different directions, right? Now, a great request is going to include purpose. It's going to include key deliverables, a clear goal, a few hero selects, some style references, and making sure that you've got your assets in place so that the edit moves smoothly. Right? With, I think, the biggest emphasis being on what job is this video serving. Mm-hmm. What would y'all say?
Yeah, I would say if you want a specific outcome, just be specific and have examples. And that's also going to cut down on revisions. Nobody wants to have 7 revisions from the client side or from the editor side because, we are not trying to post trade show content 3 weeks after the trade show. Nobody's going to care at that point. Like, we want to get it to you as fast as we can too, so that the video can do its job. So the more specific you can be up front, the less revisions we're going to have, and the faster you're going to be able to post the content that you need to post. So that's my final word on that.
Boom. Victor, close us out.
Well said, Blake. Well said. Yeah. The main thing that I want to say to tack on to what Blake said is there, especially when you're just starting out with this, it can seem daunting to be like, well, I just watched Victor, Daniel, and Blake, and they said this is what a great request needs, and this is what a bad request is. And I only feel like I know how to send a bad request right now, so I shouldn't send anything at all. Don't do that, right? This is a place for you to experiment. Like if you send a bad request, we get a lot of bad requests every day, y'all. Like we have seen many of these movies over and over and over again, right? There are folks who, it's like we've made the same like 5 or 6 things for them. So even when they send a bad request, it's kind of like, okay, we know what they want though. So we can kind of help them with this because we've done this before. But if it's something new, right? And we have 3 out of the 5 elements of a great request, do not let those last 2 missing elements stop you, right? Send in what you have and we can ingest it and figure it out ourselves. Like Blake here represents the editing team, but we also oversee a large edit support network that helps to prepare these edits for editors like Blake so that things aren't as confusing, right? So if you have an example, but the example link didn't work or something, we might be able to hunt that example down for Blake, right? If you thought that you put in a logo, but it's like a low-res logo or something like that, sometimes we can move ahead with it because we have a general idea of what the logo shape is or something. So we might have the low-res version of that logo in as a placeholder, or we upscale it with our own tools. Sometimes it doesn't, hit 100%, but it gives us a strong foundation to work off from there. So all that to say, don't be intimidated that you don't have the perfect edit request. We have done this many times before. We can get your edit request there to a stage that an editor like Blake can figure it out.
And I just wanted to end with some B-roll here over, Victor's final points here from the content we were actually just showing you. This is an example of taking all that media, which was a mix of vertical and horizontal media, and creating an actual just recap, right? Check out everyone we got to meet. Look at all these different faces, voices. I'm sure these are customers. These are prospects. These are other employees. This is a great engagement tool, right? Spotlighting all these relationships. But I love how it opened up too with the travel content. That's a really fun way to start, right? Like, check it out. Let's jump in to the trade show. We're walking in. Here's the, big opening sign, and you're really setting the scene. This is fun. It's personality driven, right? Sometimes the simple stuff does work. So I love this final point. Do not overcomplicate things for yourself. Trust that you will improve as you send more edit requests. But the real how-to tip here that I think captures everything is before you launch into that edit request, you want to determine what job is that video playing? What is this going to help drive for me post-show? Business goals wise, that is going to motivate so many of your creative decisions and give you so much clarity as you're filling out your edit request. And I think on that note, we're done, folks. So thank you to our 2 guests. This was awesome. I love getting to chat with the editing team, and we're going to be doing more of these edit request 101s for different styles of video going forward. So thank you again to Senior Director of Media Operations, Mr. Victor. Thank you, Victor. And thank you to our MarketScale Editing Embassy member, tenure editor here, Blake Tamble. Blake, always a pleasure.
Yeah, so fun. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thanks, folks. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode of UGC Workshop Live. We're live every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central, with more useful how-to tips, tricks, strategies, tool breakdowns to level up your user-generated content. Make sure you invite someone to next week's. Make sure you join us. Every week's new. Every week there's something different. We're not just throwing the boilerplate at you once a week. So don't miss out. And if you do miss it, I get it. It happens. You get those Tuesday morning meetings. Watch it back live on demand at marketscale.com. Click on our resources tab, go to workshops, and you'll see all of our previous episodes there. All right, we'll see you next week for a workshop on AI visibility, one of our newest, juiciest tools in the platform to help drive your generative engine optimization strategy and guide how your content is feeding your brand and your expertise in ChatGPT and Gemini and all those other LLMs. More strategy to come next week. But till then, I'm Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B, and this has been another episode of UGC Workshop Live. Peace.